So, do you like card games? What is going on, everybody? It is your boy Arrows, and as I said before we got into the cool intro, do you like card games? If you do, if you don't, well, I appreciate you being here, supporting the channel, supporting the videos, because you're clearly just here out of the goodness of your hearts, because I talk about card games a lot here. If you do, what if I told you that you are perhaps not playing the best card game that's ever been made? I am, of course, talking about the wrong one. The Final Fantasy trading card game. In my opinion, one of the, if not the best card games out there. If you love games with intense action and crazy amounts of battles, and you are a huge fan of the Final Fantasy trading card game, I don't know why you are not playing the Final Fantasy trading card game. Now, to be fair, there are still some glaring issues that Square Enix has with promoting this game. So honestly, you probably didn't know it existed. But I'm here to tell you that 2025 is the perfect time to dive into this amazing card game, because 3 products were released this year. 1 product has already been released, and 2 more products are coming out in the later year. That makes it ideal to make 2025 the entry point for your Final Fantasy TCG adventure. And the first one we are going to talk about is one that is already out. The Final Fantasy trading card game Legacy Collection is a reprint set, reprinting some of the greatest cards from the game's life up until this point. We're of course talking about the Warrior of Light, Yuna. We are talking about like some of the best cards ever released for this game. Cards that feature in 2 decks that were super popular, are still super popular. We of course talk about stuff like Madame Edel and the Morze Soiree members. We're talking about Scions of the Seventh Dawn. They're still really, really good. Zidane, Shinru. There's so many great reprints in this set that make deck building so phenomenal and so amazing. But if you're one of those people who want to get into a game, just if you're like me, when it comes to starting a new card game, I like to buy starter decks and see if I enjoy it. Well, Final Fantasy hasn't created a starter deck in a long time, but 2025 marks the change in that. We are getting 2 new starter sets in 2025. We're getting Zack and Cloud. They're going to be Fire and Water and Lightning and Earth. 2 really good color combinations that work really well together for the most part. But unlike Final Fantasy starter decks before, which were all based around the game, so like the previous Final Fantasy starter decks would be Final Fantasy 14, Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy Type 0, which was a very good starter deck, by the way. There was a couple of Final Fantasy 7s, a Final Fantasy 10, and a couple of Final Fantasy 13s. This starter set will not be game exclusive. So we have our cool Zack that's going to come full art in the starter deck, and we also have a bunch of cards from various Final Fantasies. I think this is arguably the best thing the game has done since its creation. I loved having game themed starter decks, but 90% of the time, those game themed starter decks were not very good. You could not pull them out and really do a lot with them. But this poses an entirely new like potential, because we're going to be having cards from multiple games in one starter deck, which I think is cool. It's really going to open up your deck building with this starter deck. And honestly, some of these cards initially look fantastic. Like this Yuna, when it enters the field, you may play 1 forward of cost 3 from your hand onto the field. And when Yuna attacks, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 card among them to your hand and return the others to the bottom of your deck in anywhere. That's a really good card. And so it's really going to be, really going to be cool. So like, the other one is Cloud. And who doesn't love Cloud? Obviously, if you're familiar with Final Fantasy, you're more than likely familiar with Final Fantasy through Final Fantasy VII. So that, I think, is another really good reason why these 2 cards are the cards for Final Fantasy's return to 1-player starter decks. Now, I say return to 1-player starter decks because there are other decks out there that are 2-player starter decks that center around like certain heroes and villains. Like, I think the newest one was Noctis versus Arden, which was a fantastic deck. Retainers is actually like kind of amazing. I'll post the link to like where you could go and potentially buy that deck if you want to get into Final Fantasy and it's something that you want to stick with going forward, because Retainers is actually like a really top tier deck right now, and you can build the bulk of it with that starter deck, which is fantastic. But you see down here, we have more new cards. And the coolest thing about these, the other cool thing about these is they're going to include cards that feature into the new game mechanic. It doesn't say anything about it here, but these decks are also, here we go. These decks are also going to contain limit break cards. Last year, or maybe the year before, somebody who is more knowledgeable in the game besides me can correct me. Final Fantasy included a secondary deck called the Limit Break deck that included units that could only be in that deck, that Limit Break deck. And they had to, I believe they have to match up with the colors you're playing in your deck, because you have to be able to, actually, no, that's a lie, ignore me. But like, that's going to be cool. So in this deck is going to be everything you need to push to like enter the world of Final Fantasy. And from that point, you're like, well, what do I want to look at for competitive Final Fantasy? Well, outside of that Legacy collection, hold on. Excuse me. We're also getting this, which is coming up before the starter decks. This is the World Championship 2024 decks. So last year, there was the World Championships. It was won by people. Final Fantasy is producing these 2 World Championship decks in a set coming out in August. Now, if you're familiar with Pokemon, you're like, but arrows, World Championship decks aren't playable in tournaments. Well, in this case, you are wrong, because these 2 decks will be playable in tournament formats. So, which is really cool. I like this. I wish the Pokemon starter decks were, I wish the Pokemon World Championship decks were playable. Which is, but like, this is fantastic, and you're getting a lot of amazing reprints in this package. Cards that are still massively competitive today. You're getting a Warrior of Light deck and a Fire Water Monsters, which features arguably one of the most powerful combination of cards Final Fantasy has seen in a long time, in Clive and Ifrit from Final Fantasy 16. This is like an amazing product, and I'm gonna be pre-ordering my copy of it. You should definitely pre-order yours. Final Fantasy is arguably one of the best card games like of all time. I love Lorcana, I love Pokemon, I love Yu-Gi-Oh, I love Magic, but this is arguably my all-time favorite card game. It is so good. There's so much heart in the game, like, just fantastic. I'm like choking up here just telling you guys about it. But I really wanted to put out this because I was a little while ago making up a basic rules of Final Fantasy, and I think we're gonna get that out next week. Talking about some of the basics of the game, maybe showing you a couple of test hands and some test turns. If you guys are looking to get into Final Fantasy, this is the way to do it. We also have a brand new set coming out with these new starter decks. Journey of Discovery. I am super excited for this. We're getting a bunch of new cards, different color combinations for certain cards that they've never had before. I'm excited for potential new Scions. I love Scion of the Seventh Dawn. Fantastic card set. Fantastic theme. Looks like we're getting more support for that. Like 2025 is the year of Final Fantasy TCG. Now, There are a few things that I wish that Square Enix will tackle with this card game going forward, and that is more accessibility. Depending on where you are in the world, Final Fantasy TCG is not widely accessible for you. These are things that you do want to keep in mind, because I wouldn't just put out a video telling you guys to, go do this right now, get Final Fantasy. You won't regret it. You won't regret it. But there are some things you have to know. Depending on where you are in the world, it might be a little bit more difficult to play this game competitively. That is one of the big things that I hope Square Enix works on in the future, is making this game more accessible across more regions with more tournament structures going forward. But like, this game is amazing. It is one of my all-time favorite card games. I really want to try and get something going on at my locals for it. And it is definitely something that you should look into if you're looking to pick up a new card game in 2025. I know we have a lot of new card games coming out. We have a Gundam TCG that's coming out in the summer. We have a League of Legends TCG that's coming out over the fall and into the new year. There's new stuff coming out for Lorcana. There's new stuff coming out for Pokemon. There's always new product coming out for Yu-Gi-Oh! Digimon is really fun. One Piece is super popular right now. But I promise you, all these games pale in comparison to Final Fantasy TCG. It has the Arrows guarantee. If you pick this game up and you play this game, you will love it. But let me know what you guys think about Final Fantasy TCG. Did you know it was a card game? Did you know it was a thing? Now that you do know, is it something you are interested in? I highly suggest picking up the 2 starter decks when they launch. Or even if you can go to either your local game store or Amazon and pick up some of the old starter decks as well, as they are. As even though they are featured around certain games, they are still very, very strong. The 2-player starter decks, the custom starter set for Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy 13 are all really strong. There is a ton of Final Fantasy content. We might do a video of what you should be buying now leading up to all this new stuff. But you guys, let me know what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Ding the notification bell if you want to be alerted whenever we post all this great content. We have so much TCG content coming out on the channel over the next couple weeks. Lorcana videos, deck profiles for stuff from Reign of Jafar. Definitely going to want to have a more in-depth look at some of the stuff we're getting in Final Fantasy. Definitely worth checking out and picking up and coming back to the channel. So as always, friends, stay safe out there, and I will see you when I see you. Bye.